In this video, I'm going to make fried gluten stuffed meatballs. This is a traditional Chinese dish that's just a bit off the beaten track. What we'll essentially do is make meatballs that are stuffed inside of these round gluten spheres. And what you get is kind of the world's easiest dumpling, where you don't even need to make the dough. The meatballs get a wonderful velvety texture from the gluten, which also doubles up as a little pouch. Once you bite into it, you get the juiciest popping sensation from the meatball. Let's get started. We're going to start off by reconstituting 4 dried shiitake mushrooms. So they come in a pouch like this. I'm going to take 4 of them out into my bowl, and then I'm going to add hot water to it. I'm going to let these soak for about 30 minutes. It can be helpful to poke it in a little bit just to let it fully submerge in the hot water. So 30 minutes have elapsed, and we are now going to make our filling. So to do that, we will start with some ground beef. This is about 0.7 pounds of ground beef. Not terribly precise. If you have any left over, just save it to make meatballs or something. So what I'm going to do is start with the shiitake mushrooms. Now you'll notice they're a lot plumper now that they've been reconstituted, but what I want to do is, well, first of all, take out the broth. We don't really need that brine anymore. And we're going to remove the woody stems of these shiitake mushrooms because they are no fun to chew on. So just carefully put it to one side, take the knife and slice it right down the stem, and just throw that away. Now what I'm going to do is just slice and dice these shiitake mushrooms as finely as possible. This is to go into the meat mixture, so the more finely you can dice it, the better it is. You don't want to bite into a huge hunk of shiitake mushroom. It's just there for a little bit of flavor and texture. Now we're going to do the same exact thing with our scallions. So removing the ends and then cutting it in half, cutting it in half again, piling it up, and then just trying to mince them as finely as possible. And I was just picking that scallion up to show how perfectly cylindrical it was, to show how fresh the scallions are. You don't always get fresh scallions from the supermarket, unfortunately. We were very lucky this time. So now we go chopping away. Scallion and mushrooms are done. Now we take some ginger and grate about 1 tablespoon of ginger over this microplane. And now we just throw everything in with the meat. Now we're going to season the meat mixture to taste, starting with some salt and some white pepper and some rice wine. So I like to use Shaoxing rice wine, which is a wine that we cook with a lot in Chinese cuisine. And now all we have to do is mix this until it looks totally homogeneous. With the beef all mixed, we are now ready to stuff our meatballs. So we're going to pick up our fried gluten balls. They come in a package like this. It should say fried gluten ball on it. And what you want to look for as you are picking this out from the supermarket is smoothness in the spheres. If it looks cracked or broken, you don't want to buy it because it's not going to be good for this purpose. What I'm going to do is set a non-stick frying pan right next to me. The stove is off, but it's going to sit there because as I stuff each of these balls, I'm going to put them directly in the pan just to minimize the number of dishes I'm going to have to clean. So here we go. I'm going to open the package, show you how we do a couple of these. So here's one, for example. It's got some blemishes on some sides, so best to find a side that has no blemishes and make that your bottom. Once you settle on a bottom, take your forefinger and just stick a hole at the very top and really spin it around inside until you get this hollow center. If you look inside, it's going to look like it's just an empty sphere on the inside. That's exactly how it's meant to be. It's just air. And as you guessed it, that's going to be the cavity where we fill in the meat. So this is going to require a little bit of patience. Little by little, take a little clump and just stuff it in there as best as you can. If some spills over on the side, no worries, just clean it up and stuff it back inside. You're going to keep doing this until you feel like there's nothing more you can stuff inside. And that's how you know you're going to be done. And you can then set it aside into the pan. and move on to the next one. What's really great about these is once you've gone through all of the gluten balls in your packet, you feel like you're done. You might still have some meat filling left. Go back to some of your filled ones, and at that point, some of the moisture will have been absorbed already, and you can then stuff in a little bit more filling at that stage. And here we are all done, and I've arranged them. They kind of perfectly fit in this nonstick pan. They're all facing upwards, and we are ready to cook. What we're going to do is turn the stove on, and then without putting in any oil, we're going to actually pour in a cup of water. We're actually going to steam these to doneness. And don't worry, you're not going to end up with soupy meatballs. The water is going to evaporate during the cooking process anyway. Put a lid on it and let it boil. In fact, we're going to let this boil for about 10 minutes. So 10 minutes later, you can open it and you can see it is just bubbling and everything is plump and the meat has become a little bit more opaque. So now we're ready to season it with a little bit of light soy sauce. I'm going to add a little bit of dark soy sauce for color more than flavor. Light soy sauce is for the flavor and dark soy is really about adding a dark caramel color. I'm also going to add a little bit of sugar. And you can add as much sugar as you like in this dish or as little as you like. I think about half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon is about the right amount just to give it that added sweetness. Now we're going to lightly toss the meatballs so that we can get the sugar and the soy sauce evenly distributed. So be very gentle at this phase because the gluten balls at this point have become so tender they are ready to burst. So all that's left at this point is to reduce the sauce a little bit so that it becomes more of a syrupy texture. So just let this boil on high without the lid on until you get that consistency, and then we're ready to go. Now I have to make this for a party the next day, so I didn't actually eat this right away, but it does taste the best when served fresh. But what I would do at this stage is maybe just blanch some spinach or some bok choy as a base to have that added green color, and then plop these on top, and it would make for a very lovely way to present your meatballs.